It was a metropolis powered by light, buzzing with energy, layered with neon bridges and elevated walkways where crowds moved like rivers. But on one eerie morning, every billboard flickered, every street lamp dimmed, and every building plunged into an unnatural hush. Within minutes, an entire district vanished. Not destroyed, not collapsed, simply gone. People who'd been standing there 1 second disappeared the next, as though erased from reality. Across the city, 2 names surfaced on every remaining surveillance feed. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo. 2 individuals marked as anomalies long before the world realized something was terribly wrong. No one expected that these 2 men, bound by a mystery that stretched far beyond what science understood, would be the only ones capable of confronting the phenomenon now known as the vanishing. The first time Xiao Zhan felt it, he thought he was dreaming. A chilling emptiness, like the air itself was being peeled away. He stood inside an abandoned observatory overlooking Helios, the glass panels shattered long ago, letting in the cold morning breeze. The world should have felt alive. But instead, it hummed with a strange static. His breath clouded in front of him even though the temperature was normal. Then the ground vibrated, a soft tremor like a heartbeat buried beneath the earth. He placed his palm on the metal railing. Pulsed once. Signal. Oh. Xiao Zhan closed his eyes and for a moment, he saw the city flicker like a glitching hologram. Buildings stretched and bent. Streets twisted into impossible angles. The horizon melted into a prism of fractured light. He exhaled sharply. "It's happening again," he whispered. Across the darkened city, Wang Yibo raced through the empty subway tunnels on a sleek electric bike, the only sound echoing through the metallic corridors. His movements were sharp, precise, hyper-attuned, like someone who'd seen too much and learned to move faster than the danger chasing him. He wasn't looking for safety. He was looking for Xiao Zhan. On his wrist, a cracked device blinked red. It displayed distorted coordinates, constantly shifting as though reality itself refused to settle. He smacked the side of it, but the numbers glitched again. "Of course," he muttered, speeding up. Only one person could stabilize these distortions, the same person he hadn't seen in 3 long years, after the incident that tied both their fates together in ways neither entirely understood. Zhan. When Wang Yibo surfaced from the tunnel into the open air, he froze. Helios was folding in on itself. Not like collapsing buildings, but like pages of a book being flipped too fast. Entire rooftops warped, flickered, and vanished as though swallowed by a giant unseen curtain. And in the center of the distortion was a familiar silhouette, standing calm, unshaken, bathed in a glow of shifting light. Wang Yibo's throat tightened. "Zhan!" Xiao Zhan didn't turn. He already knew Yibo was behind him. "You came back," Xiao Zhan said quietly, still watching the city ripple like a disturbed reflection on water. Wang Yibo stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "You knew I would. You feel it too, don't you?" Xiao Zhan finally turned, and for a moment the chaos behind him faded, replaced by the softness in his gaze, the recognition, the weight of things unsaid. "It's stronger than before," Xiao Zhan said. "The vanishing isn't random. It's pulling the city into somewhere else. Or something else is pulling it here," Yibo replied, scanning the horizon. A sudden ripping sound tore through the sky, sharp, high-pitched, unnatural. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo both looked up. A massive rift sliced open the clouds. Not an explosion, not a storm, but a tear in reality, glowing with impossible colors, violet, azure, silver threads weaving and unraveling. Light cascaded down like liquid. And then the screaming started. Not human screaming. Reality itself howled. Wang Yibo instinctively grabbed Xiao Zhan's arm, pulling him back as a shockwave blasted forward, shattering what remained of the city's skyline. Glass exploded, steel bent, concrete spiraled into dust. But they weren't thrown back. Xiao Zhan raised his hand, and the shockwave twisted around them like a whirlwind bending around an unmovable pillar. Wang Yibo's eyes widened. "You're stronger." Xiao Zhan didn't deny it. "I've been training." With people who understand the rift. With people who knew this would happen. People? Ba asked sharply. Or entities? Xiao Zhan didn't answer, which was answer enough. Another tremor shot through the ground. The rift widened, and beneath it, a shape formed. Colossal, shifting, like a creature made of shadow and fractured mirrors. It had no face, no form, but its presence felt overwhelming. A deep, resonant vibration rolled through the city. Wang Yibo stiffened, instinctively taking a fighting stance. What is that? Xiao Zhan swallowed hard. We called it a convergence phantom. A being pulled from the boundary between dimensions. Is it causing the vanishing? No, Xiao Zhan said. It's trying to escape from it. That made everything infinitely worse. A blast of dark energy shot toward them. Wang Yibo grabbed Xiao Zhan and the two leapt off the edge of the observatory platform. Time seemed to slow, the city spinning below, debris floating, colors blurring. Mid-fall, Xiao Zhan's eyes glowed faintly. A sphere of light formed around them. They landed on a collapsing highway, the ground shaking beneath them as sections fell away into void-like darkness. Wang Yibo stood first, breathing hard. You could have warned me before deciding to jump from a building. Xiao Zhan gave him a faint smirk despite the chaos. You always preferred dramatic entrances. Entrances, Yibo corrected. Not suicides. The teasing evaporated when another pulse hit the highway, causing its surface to liquefy into shimmering waves of glitching matter. Xiao Zhan's expression hardened. We don't have much time. These distortions will erase everything. Then tell me what you learned, Yibo said. All of it. Xiao Zhan hesitated. Not because he didn't trust Yibo, but because the truth was terrifying. Finally he met Yibo's eyes. The vanishing isn't a disaster, Xiao Zhan said softly. It's a rewrite. Yibo's breath caught. A rewrite of what? Of existence. He looked up at the rift. Someone or something is rewriting our world. Piece by piece. Yibo stared at him, the weight of those words sinking in. Who? Before Xiao Zhan could answer, the highway tore apart beneath them. The two leapt just as a section collapsed into a swirling abyss. Yibo grabbed the edge of a remaining beam, catching Xiao Zhan with his other hand. Sparks from overhead power lines rained like fiery snow. Xiao Zhan looked down. The void below wasn't empty. It was filled with reflections. Millions of reflections. Copies of the city. Copies of them. We're looking at parallel worlds, Xiao Zhan whispered. Every version colliding. Yibo struggled to pull them up, but the beam groaned under their weight. Then let's move before we fall into one of our own. He swung them onto a broken transport pod dangling from its cable. The pod swayed dangerously, creaking as the world flashed around them in waves of distortion. The silence after the first vanishing was not the ordinary kind. It didn't just settle, it pressed against the world. The air felt thick, as if gravity itself was hesitating. Even the birds that usually circled the Helios skyline were nowhere to be seen. Something had turned the city into an echo of itself. Xiao Zhan stood alone inside the ruined observatory, the place where he first felt the distortion tug at the edges of reality. Dust drifted in slow motion, as if time had forgotten how to behave. Every shattered glass panel reflected fragmented versions of him, hundreds of Xiao Zhans staring back, each delayed by a fraction of a second. He hated this part. The vanishing always left mirrors of possibilities behind. He lifted his hand, watching the mirrored versions lag half a beat before following his movement. It was a warning, a sign that the boundaries between worlds were thinning again. A low hum rose beneath the floorboards, the same hum that haunted his dreams. He closed his eyes, and the city flickered. In a single heartbeat, the skyline rippled like a mirage. Lights stretched into glowing ribbons. Buildings inverted themselves, then snapped back. And then, as abruptly as it started, the city returned to its stillness. Xiao Zhan's pulse matched the tremors in the ground. It's starting earlier than I thought, he muttered. Then he felt it. An energy signature slicing through the city like a comet. Vast, controlled, familiar. Yibo. Xiao Zhan stepped to the edge of the observatory floor. Far below, the empty streets blurred as something streaked between abandoned cars and flickering streetlights. Then the figure shot upward, scaling broken structures with impossible precision. Seconds later, Wang Yibo landed on the platform behind him, bike gloves still on, chest rising in sharp breaths. Even through the chaos, he carried that distinct intensity, the kind that always made the air feel slightly more electric. "You look worse than the city," Yibo said, brushing dust off his jacket. "When's the last time you slept?" Xiao Zhan smirked faintly. "When's the last time you minded your business?" Yibo stepped closer, gaze sharpening as he looked out over the rippling skyline. "So it really is happening again." Xiao Zhan nodded slowly. "The distortions are multiplying. Faster, stronger. The vanishing isn't just an event anymore. It's spreading like a virus," Yibo finished. "Or a message," Xiao Zhan whispered. Before Wang Yibo could respond, the sky cracked open. It didn't break with thunder or lightning. It shattered silently, like a giant sheet of painted glass splitting into fractal shards. Light spilled out, not bright but unnatural, bending in colors human eyes weren't meant to see. Helios froze beneath the phenomenon, as if every atom stopped to watch. Xiao Zhan stepped forward. His voice was barely audible. "It's the same tear I saw in the future timeline." Wang Yibo's brows pulled together. "Then we stop it here, before it expands." A deep vibration rolled across the observatory, shaking the floor. Dust poured from the ceiling as the tear widened. Below them, gravity twisted. Cars lifted several feet off the ground, rotating midair as if the world were a malfunctioning machine. And then the first shadow appeared. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't even a shape. It was a smear in the air, like someone had painted darkness with glitching pixels. Xiao Zhan took a step back. "That's new." Wang Yibo didn't wait. He launched forward, leaping from the observatory, sliding down a collapsed beam with flawless speed. He hit the ground running toward the distortion as it warped the street. Xiao Zhan leapt after him, catching himself midair with a pulse of bending light. He landed beside Yibo as the shadow expanded, trembling like a void trying to become solid. A shrill sound tore through the atmosphere, a resonance so sharp it sent both men to their knees. The shadow convulsed and suddenly shot upward, stretching into a towering figure made of shimmering cracks. Convergence phantom, but not like the one before. This one was unfinished. Hungry. Yibo stood, jaw clenched. "It's feeding off the city." Xiao Zhan's eyes glowed faintly. "And if we don't stop it, it will finish materializing." The phantom lunged. Reality bent around its limbs like rubber. Buildings distorted, street lanterns twisted, and the ground rolled like waves under its influence. Wang Yibo darted forward, sliding under a collapsing streetlight, fist glowing as he struck the creature's distorted leg. The hit sent ripples through the phantom, bending its body backward unnaturally. Xiao Zhan followed with a burst of radiant force, slamming into the creature's torso. The light pierced through it, creating a hole that healed instantly with glitching sparks. The phantom retaliated by slamming a massive, distorted limb down. Xiao Zhan shielded them both, though the impact pushed him dozens of meters back, feet dragging scars into the concrete. Yibo raced toward him, calling out, "Zhan, don't push too hard." "It's fine," Xiao Zhan said through gritted teeth, sweat rolling down his temple. "I trained for this." Another pulse hit them. This one was stronger, not from the phantom but from the tear itself. The sky howled. Buildings bent sideways. The streets twisted like liquid. Air fragmented into shimmering cubes. Wang Yibo grabbed Xiao Zhan's wrist. "We can't fight it like this. The phantom's being powered by the tear." Xiao Zhan looked up, eyes blazing. "Then we sever its connection." Yibo smirked despite the circumstances. "There's the Zhan I remember. Together they shot upward, dodging falling debris as they ascended toward the glowing rift. Each pulse of energy threatened to throw them into alternate dimensions flickering behind the tear. Other versions of Helios, some peaceful, others burning. As they neared the fracture, the phantom roared below, its form destabilizing as though it knew what they were attempting. It reached upward, stretching its fragmented limbs toward them. Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo looked at each other. A silent agreement. Yibo surged forward, twisting midair, punching through the crackling energy lines feeding the phantom. Sparks exploded like starlight. Xiao Zhan followed immediately, channeling every ounce of light manipulation he learned over 3 years. A beam erupted from his palms, stabilizing Yibo's strike and amplifying it tenfold. The rift reacted violently. Light burst outward, engulfing the city in a silent shockwave so bright it painted everything white. For a moment nothing existed. Then the world returned. The tear sealed itself with a soft hiss. The air fell silent again. The phantom dissolved into scattering particles, fading like ash on the wind. Xiao Zhan landed first, breathing hard. Wang Yibo dropped beside him, wiping sweat from his jawline. They stared at the quiet city. "Did we win?" Bo asked. Xiao Zhan's gaze darkened. "We delayed it." Bo raised a brow. "And the next step?" Xiao Zhan looked at the horizon. "Finding who or what is trying to rewrite reality." The wind brushed past them, carrying the promise of another threat waiting somewhere beyond sight. And for the first time in 3 long years, they were facing it together. If you enjoyed this story and want more intense cinematic episodes like this, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the next part.